Welcome back. With more cities making changes under the Defund the Police banner, another industry is seeing a surge in business. Fox 44's Brian Glenn shows us what it's all about.
Over the last few months, we've seen about 11 cities call to defund the police. So why are we seeing a rise in privatized security? Joining me now to talk about that is Dr. Alex Carmen. All right, welcome. So my first question to you is, why are we seeing a call for privatized security? Does that have anything to do with the call to defund the police?
So absolutely. So part of what we're seeing across the United States is this, movement to defund the police, which, by the way, I think it's a horrible idea, right? The idea that you either take away funding from law enforcement or reduce it to some degree, I think it really does send a very powerful message to those individuals that are out there protecting the rest of the citizenry. Having said that, many of these private industries are now looking at the security component as an option because it is cheaper and it allows them to put security officers on the front gates of someone's establishment without having to be concerned about police presence and what that would do to a crowd that comes in to engage in protest.
Okay, let's talk about the rights of privatized security versus the rights of a normal citizen. Where does that fall in the whole scope of who has more rights than the other person?
So we all have the same rights, right? But it's a matter of what kind of jurisdiction, what kind of obligation these professions have, right? So when you look at police officers, by virtue of what they do for a living, have the authority to take someone's life if in fact it meets the criteria of both the law as well as policy. Whereas security officers, for the most part, in most states, they actually operate, although under a license, they do not have powers of arrest, except the citizen arrest, which falls under a criminal code component that is the same one that you and I would have as civilians, right? So they don't have any extraordinary powers. Many of them do not carry a weapon. And so the private industry is looking at them as a nice option, as opposed to having to be concerned about what happens if a police officer uses a gun, and that in itself ends up in the killing of someone, which in itself ends up in a riot.
Dr. Alex Carmen, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.